Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. Cain Ashby stood in the quiet corner of Crimson Lights, his fingers fidgeting with the small, velvet box he had carried in his pocket all day, a heavy weight both literal and emotional pressing against his chest, and as he watched Lily Winters across the room, laughing softly at some conversation she was having with Phyllis, he felt a familiar ache twist in his heart, the kind he hadn't allowed himself to feel in months. Maybe even years, since their lives had become a complicated tangle of misunderstandings, secrets, and lost opportunities. He had rehearsed this moment endlessly in his mind, imagining her surprise, imagining her hesitation, imagining her reaction, hoping that the spark that had once drawn them together, the deep, undeniable connection that had survived betrayals, heartbreaks, and the messy politics of Genoa City, was still alive in her heart as it was in his. And as the music shifted to a soft, romantic tune, Cain saw his chance, his heart pounding in his ears. Every nerve screaming at him that this was the right moment, that he couldn't let another day slip by without risking everything, without confessing that despite every obstacle, every misstep, every moment he had spent apart from her, he had never stopped loving Lily Winters, never stopped imagining a life where they could be together, truly together, and as he approached her, her laughter subsiding into a gentle smile that seemed to light up the dimly lit cafe, he felt the nerves in his stomach twist like a roller coaster, but he also felt an unmistakable certainty, a clarity that this was what he wanted, that nothing else mattered in that moment except Lily's eyes on him, wide with curiosity, the slight tilt of her head as she sensed something different in his approach, something serious, something that might change everything between them, and he took a deep breath, forcing his voice to be steady as he called her name, Lily, and she turned, her expression softening, a mixture of warmth and caution, because even though Cain had always had a way of stepping into her life at the most unexpected moments, making her heart race and her mind whirl, she had also learned to protect herself, to guard against the disappointment that love in Genoa City so often delivered, but the way he looked at her, so open, so vulnerable yet resolute, made her take an involuntary step closer, her pulse quickening as she realized that this was not one of his usual impulsive gestures. Not one of the flirty comments or playful teasing that had once defined their complicated relationship. This was something different, something serious, something that could either heal the old wounds between them or open new ones, and Cain, sensing the moment was fleeting, dropped to one knee with a grace that belied the storm raging in his chest, the velvet box opening to reveal a ring that sparkled under the soft lights. And the quiet murmur of the cafe seemed to fade as he spoke, his voice low but clear. Lily, I know we've been through so much, and I know I've made mistakes, but every mistake has brought me here, to this moment, because I can't imagine my life without you, and I don't want to. His hand shook slightly as he held up the ring. Will you marry me? And for a heartbeat, the world seemed to stop, Lily's eyes wide, shimmering with unshed tears, her lips parting as she struggled to find words. Because the words she wanted to say were caught somewhere between her heart and her mind, between the fear of getting hurt again and the undeniable love she still felt for the man who had always, in some inexplicable way, been her other half, and the reactions of the other patrons around them seemed to blur into insignificance as she stared down at Cain, so earnest, so raw, so undeniably the man she had loved, lost, and perhaps still loved again, and 1,000 memories flashed through her mind. Their first kiss, the late-night conversations, the quiet moments of comfort, the way he had always believed in her even when she had doubted herself, and she realized that despite all the chaos, all the heartbreak, all the lies and secrets that had torn them apart, the love they shared was still there, fierce and unwavering, and a part of her wanted to reach out and close the distance, to take his hand and say yes, to let herself fall again, but another part of her hesitated. Remembering the times she had been hurt, the times she had trusted and been betrayed. The times she had thought she was ready to open her heart only to have it shattered, and in that moment, the tension was palpable, Cain's eyes never leaving hers, his breath catching as he waited for her answer, the world around them holding its collective breath, and somewhere in the back of her mind, Lily knew that saying yes would not just be a simple decision, it would be a leap of faith, a declaration of hope. A choice to believe in love again despite the pain, and she could see it reflected in Cain's face, the hope, the vulnerability, the unwavering commitment, and she felt her own walls begin to crumble, little by little, as emotions she thought she had buried long ago bubbled to the surface, threatening to overflow, and as she looked around, she saw the subtle reactions of familiar faces, friends and strangers alike, whose smiles and gasps seemed to encourage her, to tell her that perhaps happiness was possible, that love could be rekindled, that hearts could heal, and her lips trembled, her voice barely above a whisper as she finally responded, "Kane," and he leaned in slightly, the tiniest flicker of nervous anticipation crossing his features, and she continued, I don't know what to say. I never expected this, not like this, not now," and Kane's hand tightened slightly around the ring, his thumb brushing against her palm as he said softly, "You don't have to say anything yet. I just needed you to know how I feel. I just needed to ask, because life's too short to wonder what could have been. You're the only person I want, Lily. Only you." And as she absorbed his words, the sincerity in his eyes, the raw emotion in his tone, she felt the familiar warmth spreading through her chest, the way her heart had always recognized him as home, the way a single glance could undo months of doubt and fear, and as she looked down at the small, sparkling ring, she felt a rush of memories and possibilities, of the life they could build together if she dared to say yes, and she realized that the hesitations, the fears, the doubts, they were all part of the risk of loving someone so completely, but what was love if not a risk worth taking? And she swallowed hard, her throat tight, her emotions swirling, and finally, after a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, she whispered, almost inaudibly, "Yes," and Kane's face lit up with a mixture of relief, joy, and disbelief, as if he could hardly believe that the moment he had dreamed of for so long was actually happening, and he slid the ring onto her finger with trembling hands. Their eyes locking, hearts racing in synchrony, and the cafe erupted in soft applause and murmurs of excitement from onlookers who had witnessed the intimate, heart-stopping proposal, and Lily's own friends, seated nearby, rushed to her side, offering hugs and tears of happiness, but for Kane and Lily, the rest of the world fell away, leaving only the two of them in a bubble of renewed love and hope, and as he pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly, as if to make up for all the years of separation, all the times they had longed for each other from afar, Lily felt the weight of the past lift, replaced by the thrilling, terrifying, beautiful certainty that this was where they were meant to be, together, finally reunited, and as they stood there, wrapped in each other's embrace, faces pressed close, whispers of joy and promises exchanged, Kane couldn't help but murmur against her hair, "I'm never letting you go again," and Lily, tears streaking down her cheeks, smiling through the emotion, whispered back, "Never," and in that instant, in the midst of soft music, hushed murmurs, and the warmth of friends around them, they both knew that whatever challenges awaited in Genoa City, rivalries, secrets, betrayals, and drama, they would face them together, stronger, united, with hearts fully committed, and as they held each other, their love, once tested and strained, had been reforged, unbreakable, and the city itself seemed to respond to their reunion, the lights twinkling brighter, the night air feeling charged with possibility, because Kane and Lily had chosen each other, and in choosing each other, they had reclaimed the happiness and love they had always deserved, a love that was bold, fearless, and relentless, a love that would not be denied, and as the night wore on, they celebrated quietly, savoring the intimacy of the moment, the significance of the leap they had just taken, and in that quiet, glowing space, with Kane's hand entwined with hers, Lily realized that sometimes love demanded courage, and sometimes it demanded surrender, and tonight, she had chosen both. And as Kane whispered again, "You make me the happiest man alive," Lily rested her head on his shoulder, feeling the truth of his words in every beat of her heart, in every breath they shared, knowing that their story was far from over, but also knowing that together, they could write the next chapter, stronger, braver, and more in love than ever. And as the velvet box was carefully tucked away, a symbol of commitment and hope, the city outside seemed to hum with approval, as if Genoa City itself celebrated this rekindled love, and in that moment, Kane and Lily's hearts beat as one, their past pains acknowledged but no longer holding power over them, their future uncertain but radiant with possibility, and every small smile, every gentle squeeze of the hand, every glance full of love, confirmed what they both already knew, they were meant to be. And nothing, no betrayal, no distance, no chaos, could change that, and as they walked out of Crimson Lights hand in hand, the cool night air brushing against their faces, hearts light and spirits soaring, They both felt the thrill of new beginnings intertwined with the comfort of long-standing love, the perfect balance of excitement and security, and as they disappeared into the city lights, their story, which had always been one of passion, drama, and deep emotional currents, now entered a new phase, a chapter defined by commitment, hope, and the exhilarating certainty that in each other, they had found their forever. And the whispers of Kane and Lily floated through Genoa city streets, stirring hearts and sparking conversations, because when a love this strong, this tested, this undeniable, finds its way back, the city can't help but take notice, and fans, watching the news and social media, erupted with excitement and speculation, debating whether this reunion was the ultimate happily ever after or the calm before another storm. And yet, in that quiet, perfect moment, Kane and Lily didn't care about the world, the drama, or the opinions, they only cared about each other, and as they paused beneath a street lamp, the soft glow illuminating their faces, Kane brushed a stray lock of hair from Lily's cheek, and she tilted her head into his hand, eyes closing briefly to savor the touch, and in that shared silence, a promise was made, not just of marriage, but of enduring partnership, of love that would persist through trials, of hearts that would remain loyal no matter what. And as they continued down the street, hand in hand, a sense of calm settled over them, the kind of calm that only comes after storms, the kind of calm that signifies healing, growth, and the courage to love openly and fully. And with every step, every glance, every shared laugh, they reaffirmed what had always been true, that their love was worth fighting for, worth risking everything for, and that finally, in this heart-stopping moment of revelation, commitment, and reunion, Kane and Lily had chosen each other, forever. In a world full of uncertainties, they had found certainty, and as the night embraced them, the city holding its breath for what was to come, they walked together into the promise of tomorrow, hearts entwined, souls aligned, ready to face whatever the future held, knowing that together, nothing could tear them apart, and that the love which had survived lies, betrayals, heartbreaks, and separations, had not only endured, it had blossomed into something stronger, deeper, and more beautiful than either of them had dared to imagine. And in that moment, with the velvet ring box tucked safely away, hands clasped tightly, and hearts beating as one, Kane Ashby and Lily Winters knew with absolute certainty that they were, at long last, truly reunited, and that nothing in Genoa City, no matter how dramatic, could ever take this moment from them. The moment Kane slid the ring onto Lily's finger, locking their hands together, a warmth spread through her chest, the kind of warmth that felt like home, like a promise of safety and belonging. And yet, even as her heart soared, a tiny flutter of anxiety lingered, a whisper reminding her that Genoa City had never been gentle on love, that the past had a way of resurfacing when hearts dared to open. But when she looked into Kane's eyes, those familiar hazel orbs full of unwavering devotion, she felt every fear dissolve, replaced by a wave of certainty that despite everything, this was where she was meant to be. And Kane, sensing the complex emotions dancing across her face, held her a little tighter, murmuring against her hair, "We'll face it all together. I promise. No secrets. No surprises. Only us." And Lily, letting herself believe in that promise, exhaled slowly, feeling the tension in her shoulders ease for the first time in months, as if the weight of past betrayals and heartbreaks had been lifted simply by his words. And the small crowd around them, friends and strangers alike, continued to murmur with excitement, sensing the rare, undeniable electricity that passed between the couple, the kind of chemistry that could ignite a room. And as Phyllis, seated nearby, wiped a tear from her cheek, she whispered to herself, "Finally, they're back," knowing better than anyone how fraught the journey to this moment had been. And yet, even as happiness enveloped the pair, the ever-watchful eye of Genoa City began to shift toward them, ready to dissect, analyze, and potentially complicate what should have been a straightforward, joyous occasion. And as the evening progressed, Kane and Lily found themselves sharing quiet words, stolen glances, and gentle touches, each one reinforcing the connection that had never truly faded, each one a silent acknowledgement that they had survived the chaos, and survived it stronger, more in love, more determined to hold on to each other no matter the challenges. But as they stepped outside into the crisp night air, the city lights reflecting in Lily's eyes, the first ripple of gossip began to spread, whispers carrying quickly from crimson lights into the wider expanse of Genoa City, and before they even realized it, their intimate moment had become the talk of the town, with friends texting frantic congratulations, social media exploding with hashtags like hashtag Kane and Lily reunited, hashtag proposal shock, hashtag will she say yes, and fans and critics alike dissecting every detail, the way Kane had approached, the tremble in his voice, the tenderness in Lily's eyes, the ring, the very location of the proposal, which some claimed was perfect while others noted the symbolism of crimson lights as a place of transformation, romance, and history. And as the news spread, it wasn't long before the people who had complicated their love in the past began to stir, some with intentions that could threaten this newfound happiness, and Kane, ever protective, wrapped his coat around Lily as they navigated the crowded sidewalk, aware that every turn, every shadow, every casual observer could bring whispers that might reach the ears of those with motives less than pure, and Lily, though thrilled, couldn't shake the nagging sense that the city, with all its charm and chaos, was both their playground and their battlefield, and yet, she trusted Kane, trusted that the man who had endured everything for her would not let outside forces shatter the fragile new beginning they were embracing, and as they passed by society, the familiar venue that had witnessed so many twists in their lives, Lily caught sight of Nikki and Victor standing by the entrance, their expressions unreadable, and Kane's hand squeezed hers as he murmured, "We'll handle it together," and Lily, heart racing, nodded, knowing that while family and business always complicated things in Genoa City, they could face the storm as long as they had each other. And as they continued toward the park, the city lights flickering like stars in the night sky, a sense of surreal calm settled over them, one of those rare moments where time feels suspended, where the noise of the city fades into background, and all that matters is the warmth of a hand, the heartbeat of the person you love, and the certainty that, despite everything, love had found its way back. And as they paused on a quiet bench overlooking the fountain, Kane pulled Lily close, brushing a stray strand of hair from her face, and she smiled, a mixture of joy and disbelief, and whispered, "I can't believe we're really here," and Kane, his voice low and full of conviction, replied, "Believe it, Lily. We made it. We finally made it," and in that embrace, they both felt the weight of years lift, the scars of past betrayals soothed by the simple act of choosing each other once again, and yet, just as they began to relax, the inevitable murmurings of Genoa City's gossip machine began to echo in their minds, because news this explosive never remains contained, and already, Sharon and Nick were receiving frantic calls from friends who had spotted the couple together, speculation spreading that Kane's proposal might signify more than just reconciliation, perhaps hinting at new alliances, business partnerships, or even dramatic confrontations to come. And as the night wore on, Lily couldn't help but wonder how their announcement would ripple through the city, how fans would react, how friends and foes alike would position themselves in response to this public declaration of love, and Kane, reading her thoughts, whispered softly, "Let them talk. We know the truth. We know us," and Lily, letting a laugh escape her lips, nodded, feeling the truth of his words resonate deep in her heart, because amidst all the chaos of Genoa City, there was one undeniable certainty: they belonged together, and nothing, no rumor, no interference, no past mistake, could erase that. And as they returned to Crimson Lights to grab a celebratory coffee, friends like Phyllis and Chelsea enveloped them in hugs, tears streaming down faces, laughter spilling freely, everyone reveling in the rare, almost magical moment of happiness that seemed to defy the city's usual pattern of drama and heartbreak. And as they settled at a small table by the window, Kane and Lily leaned toward each other, whispering about the future, sharing dreams of a wedding, a family, and a life that finally felt whole. And as they plotted tentative plans, a gentle reminder of reality crept in. Victor Newman, always the observer, had already taken note, his mind calculating every angle, every potential impact of Kane and Lily's union on the fragile balance of power and influence in Genoa City, and Nikki, too, had her protective instincts triggered, silently hoping that Lily's heart was strong enough to survive whatever challenges might come from the inevitable scrutiny, judgment, and interference. And as the night stretched on, the couple finally stood to leave, walking hand in hand through the emptying streets, a soft breeze carrying the scent of the city, the thrill of romance, and the quiet promise of forever. And as they paused under a street lamp, Kane reached into his pocket and pulled out the small box again, this time to give Lily the token of his love for safekeeping until the wedding day. And as she accepted it with a smile, her heart full, she realized that the journey they were embarking on was not merely about a ring, a proposal, or even a wedding. It was about reclaiming the love that had always been theirs, about forging a path through the messiness of life with someone whose presence alone could heal, inspire, and embolden. And as they walked back toward the car, the glow from the street lamps reflecting off the wet pavement, they were oblivious to the watching eyes, the whispers, and the plotting minds, focused entirely on the shared warmth between them, the way their fingers fit together perfectly, the way their laughter mingled, the way their hearts seemed to beat in a synchronized rhythm that neither could ignore. And as the city lights began to blur past the windows of Kane's car, Lily rested her head on his shoulder, feeling a sense of peace she had not known in years, a sense of rightness that seemed almost miraculous in a city as turbulent and unpredictable as Genoa. And Kane, stealing a glance at her, allowed himself a small, contented smile, knowing that whatever trials lay ahead, business rivalries, family conflicts, unexpected betrayals, or the relentless scrutiny of Genoa City's ever-watchful eyes, they would face them together, stronger and more united than ever, because love like theirs was rare.